Welcome to another episode of Subconscious Realms. I'm your host, General Lee. And for tonight, got something is a little bit different tonight. We've got three guests with us, three incredible guests. We've got Justin from the Dig Bible podcast. Now then, Justin.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. This is going to be fun.
Oh, it's a pleasure, mate. Thank you for joining us. We've got Lux from the Lux Rising podcast. Now then, mate, you okay, Lux?
Doing all right, my friend. Doing all right.
Oh, it's nice to be speaking to you again, mate.
You as well.
I'm looking forward to this one. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And we've also got Dave Petrella from the Dave Petrella channel on YouTube. Now then, Dave.
Hey, General. Hey, guys. Yeah, great to be here. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thank you for joining us again. Before we begin, I'd just like to just say something on Dave's behalf, actually. Due to numerous reasons, Dave's changing things slightly with his channel. And basically what we're asking you is if you could just support him. He's just recently started up a new Patreon. So, you'll be getting additional content from Dave. And I don't know if you've heard of Dave's channel or listened to him before, but his research is next level. He is, extraordinary. And the shows we've done, he blew my mind from start to end. So if you could, we'll add the links for his Patreon. If you want to contact Dave direct, he'll go through things with you. But we'll add everything to the show notes. But Dave offers full services in tropical astrology, biological principles of the East, and health tips, spiritual guidance, list of services, like I said, contact information. For Dave's, we'll put all the links in the show notes. But if you could help him in any way, donations, Patreon, we would very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, General. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I was telling General before too that, if we want to see good quality content that's it's fair, and it's going to be to the point and clear, encompassing as many possible. What I said was probable explanations. It's kind of how I look at it. A lot of times people will come in and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, it's we think it's this." Well, how about the other 7 possible ideas that you're not mentioning? It's very important, and especially as a scientist, because I'm a scientist. In addition, is that when you're trying to explain something, you put all credible ideas on the table, and then you try to remain unbiased, and you let your data lead you where you're going. So it's very important to do it that way for me, and it's also the only way to be fair and to be actually scientific. So that's what I'm endeavoring to do on my channel, and I really need your support, guys, to keep doing my shows. I've had lots of opportunities with cable television networks and stuff like that. I've learned, unfortunately, a lot of it's kind of plugging their propaganda machine. I thought someone coming in with good content would be able to kind of triumph over that. Doesn't really appear that way. So I'm reaching out to you guys, and I really appreciate your support.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. We're in this together at the end of the day, Dave. I know you would, if I asked you for assistance or anything like this, I know you would jump at the opportunity, mate. You've had my back before, and I appreciate it. So
yeah,
you deserve it, mate.
Thanks, just man. One thing to say quickly, for listeners, especially in the conspiracy community, I would say, a lot of times if content creators ask for donations or money, a lot of times people will say that they're scamming, or why would they need money to continue a podcast because it's just a mic and a computer. It's so much more than that, and you got to support the people that you listen to, because in one breath people will say don't pay for podcasts or something like that, but then they have 5 subscriptions to Netflix and Hulu, and so
yeah.
People don't realize either, man. It's the monthly subscriptions to your editing software, your website, your RSS feed. Even if you do videos, all the royalty monthly fees you got to pay for the stock videos. I mean, it's costly. A lot of people realize how much money and time goes into this.
That's true, that Justin. That's true. I mean, like I said, Dave Diaz is very, very. How can I put it? He's very distinct at what he does, and unique as well. There's not many at level of the research as Dave. I mean, we did a show on Egyptian. Was it Egyptian symbology? Was it Dave? And fuck. Seriously, from start to end, it was like as if my brain was being melted and then being reformed and then melted again. It was incredible. That's what it should be like. That is what. That's the level of research Dave does. He's up there with, in my opinion, he's up there with the best of them.
Thanks, John.
It's only right to. I mean, do you know something? Even if it might sound silly, this, even if it's whoever listens to it, $1, just for example, $1 just for listening to that one episode, that, you know, that would mound up. But I think that's more realistic than people asking for, like just say tier 4, $100 a month. Because that's what some people apparently ask for. That's ridiculous. People, you know, who's going to be able to afford that? Not many. Whereas just a small amount, even if it's a donation for each episode, it's better than nothing, and it would mound up.
Oh yeah, and if it's $5 or $10 even, and you've got 1,000 people, you're good. You know, even if you got 500 people, if you got 100 people, you're pretty good. You know,
yeah, so you're not doing it to make a profit. You're doing it to make ends meet. You know, I mean,
that's correct, man. Yep.
That's all you're really trying to do.
I'm trying to pay my bills, guys. You know, and that's what it is. It's that I was telling General, it's like, well, you know, we live in a world where we charge each other for stuff, so it's like I need the assistance because I'm being charged for my rent, utilities, and you know all this stuff, man. Car insurance, it really adds up.
Yeah, it's be difficult, can't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody in a worse position than me at the minute. But you know, I think if it wasn't for you, Lux, I mean, everybody you're talking to now has, you know, make sure I'm okay in that, and I appreciate it. I really do. To me, if I could do my show, I don't know where my head would be. It takes my mind off it, but you know, your true friends really are at times like this.
That's true.
It is, mate. And other people that when they show the true colours, you know, well, say no more.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. And it's getting more and more important every day as we move ahead. You know, the world's getting more, in my opinion, more unstable, more unpredictable, crazier. You know, and so you got to find the people you vibe with and stick with them.
Yeah, that's true, that, mate.
Especially, you know, especially people. I state all the time, pretty much almost every show I do, that my objective is to help people. And anyone who knows me knows that's the only thing I do. Always out helping people, man. You know, always trying to help the underdog.
Yeah.
Trying to help people get on their feet. Like I'll go out of my way to do stuff. It's like, you know, I just need some support myself. And also, I'll tell you what, the last thing I want to say about this is that part of it for me too is that if I'm doing shows, then and there's not any financial support coming in, then I'm actually going to be forced to actually do, you know, traditional style work, which I'm not saying is an issue. I'm just saying if people want the quality and the volume of shows coming out that I've been doing recently, I can't afford to do that if I'm working full time. You know, just to be quite honest. If I'm working full time, I come home and I lay on the couch, man, you know, and relax after my shift. So I'm not going to be doing shows and stuff if I have to get out to that.
What did I say to you, Dave, when you said that? I'm like, no, you need to do your show, mate. Don't stop doing your show.
I know, man. Yeah, I need the support. You know, so please help me out, guys.
Yeah. You're one of the few shows. I mean, I used to listen to loads of different shows, but you are one show that I listen to and I look forward to when you release your episodes, Dave. And that's just because of the level of of your caliber. It is brilliant, mate.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, General. Yeah, I really do.
Oh, not a problem, mate. It is it's a pleasure, and I'm proud to know you, Dave. So anyway, I've been looking forward to this because I know it's going to be very specific, but astrology from a biblical perspective. Justin.
Yeah, see, when people talk about, astrology or astronomy, especially in the Christian world, a lot of people, they freak out. They think it's, they think of horoscopes and they think of witchcraft and just all these things. But I mean, it's there in their Bible. And if you read it, I mean, even the very first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 says, God said, let there be lights in the expanse of heavens to separate the day from night. So let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So Scripture tells us that the stars were created for signs and seasons, days and years. It's a perfect clock and calendar. The sun, the hour hand, the moon, the day of the month, and the constellations for seasons. When you get into Acts chapter 2, verse 19, it said, I will show wonders in heaven above. And the ancients, you can look back, they've been mapping the stars and looking at these stars since the dawning of time. We had Dr. Aaron Judkins on our show. He just got back from Göbekli Tepe and was excavating over there, and they're finding that they can find how the complexes were made and what time by the entrances and the alignments for the sun. And these are supposed to be
from Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah,
because that's like quite an old place, isn't it? One of the oldest.
Yeah, these guys were supposed to be stupid hunter gatherers.
Yeah.
Well, and even it's all through it.
Well, and even with the Dead Sea Scrolls, there were horoscopes that were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So what's that doing there?
He said they found
if they're not connected. The horoscopes were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
It's just, honestly, mate, it is just, it just sounds unbelievable, doesn't it?
I mean, it's even Psalms, and what was that guy's name? That scientist that came from Germany that launched the NASA space program. He had Psalms 19 put on his headstone. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God."
Oh, today
it pours out speech, and night reveals knowledge.
Yeah, is it Von Braun? Is it?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I was going to say Adolf Hitler then, but once it gone down well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Christians, they just automatically kind of will think that astrology or anything that could be deemed esoteric or occult is inherently evil. Like, I grew up in the church, and it was instilled in my brain that don't even touch the stuff. And when I had questions about certain verses or books in the Bible, and I would go to the preacher and ask, he wouldn't answer the question. He would just say, more or less, don't worry about it. God's in control, and everything is perfect in the Bible. It's God's written word. So it was always felt like there was a, I don't know, just sort of like a gatekeeping of that information.
And honestly, I think it's ignorance because, I don't think it's some grand scheme to hide things from the church. It's just when they go to seminary school, they got their set plan. They've learned what they've learned. And then when they get to, difficult verses like Genesis 6 and weird stuff, they're like, oh, well, we'll just skip that verse, And I like how Mike Heiser said, if it's weird, it's important. And our problem is that this is an ancient text, and we're trying to interpret an ancient text with our modern minds, and we're falling short.
Do you think they avoid speaking about the weird stuff like, do you think I would be Genesis 6? Would that be classed as the weird part of the Bible? Do you think? I don't know. I'm not sure. That's what Gary. Yeah, that's what Gary Wayne covered in his first part of Genesis 6 conspiracy. To me, that's the most fascinating bit. Not that I know the Bible, because I don't. It's just from like what Gary spoke about and others have spoken about. But do you think there's a particular reason why they don't like speaking about it? Or is it just because they don't know?
Well, see, I just think it's because it's weird and it's difficult to explain. But that's one thing that I wanted to dive into because it's connected with this, astrology, and astronomy in the Bible. Because, it says in Genesis 1, that the stars were put in the heavens, for signs and for seasons and things like that. So, I mean, it was knowledge that was intended to be, given to us. But, somewhere along the line, the intent and the knowledge was perverted. In Romans chapter 1, verse 25, Paul says, they traded the truth for a lie and worshiped the created things instead of the Creator. And then Acts chapter 7, verse 42, but God turned away and gave them over to worship the host of heaven. I believe this verse is referring to the events of the Tower of Babel depicted in full context in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. There it states that when the nations were divided amongst the sons of God, Hebrew, this is B'nai Ha Elohim. Every time this phrase is used in Scripture, it's used to describe heavenly angelic beings. This isn't the beginning of the knowledge being perverted, though. For that, we got to go back to Genesis 6, because there we find that sons of God phrase again. Because in Genesis 6, it says that the sons of God, seeing that the daughters of men were fair, and came down and bred with them and made Nephilim giants, and these were the mighty men of old.
Yeah.
The book of Enoch says that these angels, when they came down, they gave divine knowledge to humanity, and they were worshipped as gods in return. And it goes into great detail. All these different angels taught everything from the art of war, making of swords and shields, astrology, the cutting of roots, witchcraft, beautification of the eyelids, and even goes as far as abortion.
Yeah, great. I wonder who taught knitting. We've all got like cool stuff, and then somebody's going to be at the back end there knitting. Who wants to join me for knitting classes?
Crochet 101.
Crochet.
Yeah, that whole Genesis 6 thing, that's the ground zero.
Right.
But I'm sure, with your audience and some of you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with it too, but so I won't go into great detail, but you get these few verses about these fallen angels and their offspring in Genesis and Nephilim, they don't feel they don't need to be the dead horse necessarily because, they had the oral tradition, and then the book of Enoch, whether you believe that it has an earlier writing or a late writing, they still had the oral traditions. So this was something that they all, knew about. So they came down, they done all these things, and they worshiped these fallen angels as gods. And they, they taught them astrology and all these things. And I think that's where it's talking about, when Paul says they traded the truth for a lie and worship the heavenly things, the hosts of heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anything about that, Dave? I know that you're real big into astrology. You familiar with any of the context of the Bible, or?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, there's so much to say. I've just been sitting back and enjoying what you guys are saying, man. It's not. I was telling people before the show. It's not often I can just kind of listen to the conversation and enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, there's so many places to begin with it. I agree with you. Of course, Genesis talks about there being signs in the sky and seasons, and let's not forget the Star of Bethlehem. What the hell was that? Some people think it was a craft, actually. I'll throw the monkey wrench in right now. Some people say that, a moving star sounds like a UFO to me. And basically, it's like come on, guys. And the Magi were supposed to be astrologers coming from Persia. So come on, guys, follow the star, and we'll show you where the newborn king is going to be born. Some people think the Star of Bethlehem was a conjunction between Jupiter and Venus, which means in astrology it means that they're essentially right next to each other, or even right on top of each other in the sky, from our perspective. So there's so many different viewpoints on that. The other thing about it too is that I'll throw another monkey wrench in right off the bat. We'll get things exciting. It's already exciting. You guys are doing a good job, but the thing that I think about with the fallen angels, sometimes they're called the Watchers. The Nephilim are closely associated oftentimes with that, which some people actually say the sons of God are actually the Nephilim. They're the giants, which is a crossbreed between the fallen angels and the humans, is what it's claimed to be. And that's one of the reasons, supposedly, that the flood was sent, because it was considered an abomination. How dare you cross species and make things that are monsters and all this stuff that were not part of the original, say, the genetic plan. So one of the things I've suggested in the actually the Garden of Eden story, me and Robbie Marks, who's a wonderful contributor to this show, General Lee and him are really good friends as well. And actually, that's how I got involved, was through Robbie and General for one of their shows. Well, me and Robbie did a show on the Garden of Eden. It was actually my first podcast that I produced last December. And if you guys want to hear some of the real and heavy controversy, I would really recommend listening to that in terms of what actually happened. What actually happened in the Garden of Eden? What is this story about? We laid out, I don't know, probably 10 possibilities, and like I said at the beginning, I want people to see the options. And then I already know what I think. I'm just trying to make it easier and more understandable and clearer, so that you know what's in front of you. And then you can start picking, let me look at this theory. Let me look at this theory. Oh, how about this one over here? And I don't see a lot of that these days. People come out and say, yeah, it's this. Well, your opinion, but there's also about 10 other people I know who are saying about 20 other different things. How about them? And some of those people are intelligent too. Let's see what they got to say. So what I was going to say is that I think one of the things I thought about is, and you're going to like this one, General, for sure. I know this because you love the alien topic. I like it too. I like it too, man. And mostly for me, it's because I'm trying to understand our world and our universe. But the thing is that some people think they're throughout history, and there's some evidence of this in some ancient scriptures and texts, and certainly people who channel come up with this a lot, or with psychic abilities and things. And they say, yeah, there's been actually competition between several different ET species since the beginning of time. And they're talking on a galactic scale, not our solar system, just like all outside into the galaxy, possibly further. And one of the things I've thought about a lot, especially when you think about the Garden of Eden story, it talks about the serpent, of course. But why is it a serpent and not, I get that serpents are usually depicted as sly and stuff, but there's some really weird descriptions about the serpent actually originally standing in like a humanoid type figure. Like it's not like a snake serpent. This is from like let's say it's from like the some of the Kabbalah teachings and the Zohar teachings from the esoteric side of Judaism. There's supposedly some texts that refer to that actually the serpent was essentially humanoid. It had legs, and that the punishment was for that to crawl on its stomach. So originally it wasn't created that way. And when I think about that, I start thinking about the reptilian race of aliens. And, in terms of, there's been a lot of talk about that through history, and especially hot topic recently. And I think oh yeah, man. And I think that we're probably talking about different ET species who are like super conscious, super intelligent, not necessarily moral. Definitely a lot of them are not moral. So a lot of them are, though, competing for control of the Earth narrative. And I think a lot of them are coming down and saying, oh, let's try to trick them into doing this and this and this. So what I've suggested, in addition to, and believe me, I spent a lot of time with the fallen angel story and the Watchers and all this stuff. And I asked people, I'm like, all right, so who were they? Were they like gods? Were they like humanoids or hybrids or grays? Or what are we talking about here? Who are these fallen angels?
And I like Timothy Alberino's outlook on that. We had him on the show, And he was, he's been on Ancient Aliens and stuff too. And
Oh yeah,
he was saying,
Timothy, right?
yeah, Timothy's
Okay.
awesome. But he was saying that that this is a war. He said, and if you want to, he said the ancient alien guys, he said they're all over what I believe is the truth. He said, but they put an alien label on it. He
You're
said,
right.
if they take to the biblical perspective, he says it's the exact same story that the Bible is telling. He said, but they're just saying that it's aliens instead of fallen angels. And he said, so if you want to get technical, he said, if you want to get textbook about it, he said, God, angels, Satan, all these things are not of this world. He said, so technically, by textbook definition, you could
Yeah.
call them extraterrestrial. And I thought it was cool you brought up that Nakash. Mike Heiser, discovered not this, a couple of years ago when he wrote about it in his book and stuff. That word in Hebrew is Nakash, for the serpent. He said, yeah, it can mean serpent, but it can also mean the shining one or the one who practices divination. And I love how he said, context is key. He said, so, we know serpents don't talk. This serpent spoke to Eve and she wasn't taken back by it. She conversed with it and trusted what it said, so she was obviously familiar with it and didn't question it. He said, so what makes more sense, that this was a snake or this was a shining one or, a divine one in the Garden of Eden on God's holy mountain that Eve and Adam were familiar with and seen every day that just rebelled against God?
Yeah.
Yeah,
First time
100%.
I read that, man, that blew my mind.
Well, the thing is, those are really good points, man. The thing is, the thing I wanted to add was that a lot of times through mythology, because I've spent, I'm sure you guys have too, but I spent a lot of time with mythologies, all the different mythologies. I don't discriminate because I want to see how they explain the world. Like, this is what I think. Well, what do you guys think? I give people a chance, and I shut my mouth and I listen to them until they're done. Because I'm interested, and that's also being respectful and honoring people and things. So I think that the idea of well, first of all, Homo sapiens, what is that? Why does part of our name have like serpent in it? I don't like that. Someone explain to me where that. No, I'm not saying you guys. That's strange. That's strange.
Do you know what is strange as well? In my opinion, now might sound a little bit strange to some people, but I mean, look at us as human beings. We shed skin.
That's true. Yeah.
We are waterproof. So in a way, we've got part reptilian brain.
Yeah,
we are hybrid entities as a race.
Yeah, I agree with you. And of course, if you guys, obviously, I know a lot about anatomy because I've had a lot of training in biology, both in the Western and Eastern traditions. And the thing about it is that have a look at the spinal column. It looks like a freaking cobra. Like, look at the sacrum.
Hey, fucking hell, mate.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And then when you get up into the brain, and well, it could technically, usually in the physical world, things are almost always dualistic, if not always. You can kind of flip it either way. You could have the sacrum, the tail of the spine, be the tail of the serpent, or actually flip it the other way. And if you're looking at the sacrum as the head of the serpent, then your spinal, not just the cord, well, the column, but it's actually probably more the spinal cord, which is truly cylindrical. And that's actually very much like a snake's body. But the other one is if you get into the brainstem, have a look at, pull up a picture of a 2D picture of the brainstem. It looks like, I'll tell you what it looks like. You guys are going to be amazed if you haven't heard this, but it looks like a serpent's head biting an apple. And that part of the brain is called the medulla oblongata in the pons, if you want to look that up. And so when you're talking, and here's, again, all the illusions are there, all the metaphors are there. You're talking about the tree in the Garden of Eden. And it's like, okay, well, if you know anything about esoteric biology, the spinal column it's the tree of the body. It's your cosmic axis of the body. So like the serpent, it's the spinal cord of the serpent in the body being the spinal cord and the spinal column is actually the serpent in the tree. because the tree of the body, the cosmic axis of the body, is the column, the spinal column.
It's
Unbelievable.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and then especially, in the garden when there's this fall. I mean, to me, I think it's a fall from some prior higher existence. And this fall, and then you have all over the Bible these crazy different entities that are being described with like 18 heads, or dragons with like 1 billion arms and stuff, right? Like these people who are writing this are trying their best to describe it in a way that future readers will be able to understand. So much of it is an allegory and not meant to be taken literally, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, and a lot of that's metaphor. Like, I'm gonna get there, but you was talking about the different heads and faces and stuff. That's the 4 living creatures. That's astronomical, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially the Revelation stuff.
Yeah. But what's crazy is like so many people. I'm sorry, David. You gonna say something?
No, I was gonna ask you, man, if the way that if you're talking about well, it's actually in several books, but if you're talking about Revelation, I think it's in Revelation, probably in a couple places.
Ezekiel.
But yeah, Ezekiel's wheel, absolutely, and Enoch as well, and all this stuff. But the thing is that I'll tell you guys from an astrological perspective, because I am an astrologer, of course, is that when you look at the zodiac, the zodiac is the circle of 12 signs.
Mm-hmm.
We each are one of the signs based on when we're born, what sign the sun is when we're born. That's called your birthday. The thing about that is that if you look at the description, I think it's in the book of Revelation. It talks about faces. Okay, so you obviously know which faces they are.
Oh, yeah.
You probably already know what I'm going to say, but basically those are called the fixed signs of the zodiac. They're also called the ordinal signs in like a compass, which means it's halfway between like north and east and north and west and south and east and all that stuff. It makes a cross, and those 4 animals are what is being described. So it's actually talking in I think, I'll be honest with you guys, I think it's also like some kind of a monster or an ET craft. I work on many dimensions and many levels of meaning at the same time. So I used to be like, oh no, it's not like some kind of weird half biological, half like technological hybrid craft, like conscious weird thing. I'm like, no way. And actually, I actually believe it is, in addition, of course, to the main meaning for me, which is that it's the fixed signs of the zodiac. And I'll just go through them really fast. It's the bull, which is Taurus. And you go to the other corner, and it's actually going to be Leo, which is the lion. Then you go to the bottom corner. I believe it's describing this depiction as I thought it was the eagle. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And then the other one is the human, which is Aquarius. Those are all the ordinal signs. So it's showing you the zodiac. I think it's showing you some other weird stuff too. And it doesn't have to. The Bible is for me, it's a many-tier, many-level manual. It's astrotheological. It's also anatomical, which I spend a lot of time with. For instance, Sarah and Abram from the Old Testament. Well, that's Sarah Abram. It's cerebrum. So something's going on with that, and the cherubim. It's the cerebrum. So you can't look at that and be like, oh, that's crap. It's like a direct match, unbelievable. And it just Mary Magdalene, the amygdala and the brain. Come on, easy connections.
Yeah, see, that was some things I was going to talk about too, was the 4 living creatures, because you got them in Ezekiel chapter 1, and it mentions the wheels within wheels, and that's a lot of times people talk about that being a spacecraft, and then you also see these 4 beasts or living creatures in Revelation, and that's the 4 cardinal points in the Babylonian zodiac, and they were held captive there for a long time and trained in their ways, and even Daniel was one of the chiefs of the Magi and taught this knowledge to the people, and they they exchanged knowledge with each other. But what I thought was crazy is like with the wheels within wheels. Okay, it talks about the 4 living creatures, and and as Dave talked about, those are the constellations. So then it says, and within them was wheels within wheels, and then it said they had eyes all about. Well, the Hebrew word is ayin. This very same word is also used to describe shining objects or glimmering things. So stars shine and glimmer. So I believe these wheels within wheels are basically the pathways or the highways, if you want to call it, that the stars travel in their fixed orbits or whatever you want to call that. Because when you take when you take a camera, and now we got, got all this technology, we can point a camera up, like at the North Star and do a time lapse. And what do you see? Wheels within wheels.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share something with you guys real quick. Lee, if you could let me share my screen with you.
Not a problem, mate. Not a problem.
I think you'll find this pretty interesting, just considering everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah. When Lux has shared this, I'm sure I sent everybody that video of what our brandy got footage of, which, I mean, I haven't got a clue what it was, but first thing came to mind was the Ophanim, which is I think that's basically what he's just been talking about, like a wheel within a wheel type entity or craft, whatever it was. Do you remember me showing you the video?
The shimmering thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's come through, Looks, yeah.
So hopefully everybody can see that.
Wheel of Fortune.
So that is the wheel. It's the Wheel of Fortune card from the tarot. Now, the tarot and the Hebrew language, they go hand in hand, and so much of the tarot is depicting things that are in the Bible as well. Now, we just were talking about a wheel within a wheel, right? And then, Dave, you were just talking about the 4 cardinal directions and the representation of those, like how they're, what they look like visually, right? So you said that one had the face of a man, one had the face of a lion, one of the bull, right? All representing the zodiac.
You got it, man. Yep.
So I mean, this is stuff like this. It's right under even occultists' noses, and they don't even make the connection that there's so many things that are interchangeable between the Bible and tarot. Because I mean, I won't go crazy into it, but the tarot is a representation of the spheres on the tree of life, right? So, they go hand in hand, and it's just very wild and also you got a snake on there too. So, it's things. Things are go a little bit deeper,
I love this, mate.
Occultism, esotericism. I mean, maybe they're reflecting things from the Bible, and things from the Bible are then being reflected in the tarot. So
like they go hand in hand, sort of.
And the tarot is so incredibly old. I mean, it's hard to even peg exactly, but I would say ancient Egyptians. So, and we know if we look at books of Exodus, Genesis, right? Moses he's conjuring magic to part the seas. He's using occultism in that book. Solomon, he built the temple by using controlling demons, right? So maybe occultism and the Bible are not. They might be saying the same thing, just in a slightly different way, and that's why conversations like this are so important, because it's helping to pull back the onion to figure out what the overall message is. Yeah,
and I think with regards to what you just said, then, Lux, is when especially when you explain things in great detail, actually showing this card now, and we can all see it. It makes it so much more understandable. But I've got a question here. What each of the like the eagle and the angel, they've all got books. what would that represent? Would that represent the Bible, do you think?
Or a general knowledge, yeah.
Knowledge, yeah.
I can comment on that too, guys. I've heard I want to throw my support also behind Santos Bonacci. He's one of my friends. I actually learned the basics of astrology from him back in 2015. I believe I heard from him that the four creatures of the four books represent the four gospels, basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that could be true. Yeah.
Which, and it's there. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with it, but we got to remember that it's kind of telling the same story, roughly, from the New Testament about Jesus' life and his crucifixion, all this stuff. And I mean, that's an amazingly loaded topic. That's probably my favorite topic of all time, is the story of Jesus. Because I start going into 10, 20 different levels of meaning on what we can be looking at with that. But the thing is that it's all roughly the same story, but they have a different feel to them. The four gospels, they feel different, and John is very mystical. The last one is like, whoa, now we're getting into something good here.
The logos, the word, yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Because like I think in Matthew, I'm pretty sure Matthew, it's very like kind of to the point, to the book, kind of rigid. I'm like, okay, I get it. And then like as you go through the Gospels, it's like, okay, now we're getting to something interesting. They tell the same story. There's a few different details added in, but the tones are like radically different. So I think it's associated with those four signs.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And speaking to the four beasts, the other one that I mentioned was in Revelation. Now this was really cool. I found this out through Mike Heiser's book, Reversing Hermon, I'm pretty sure. But he was talking about that. Of course, the four creatures was the constellations. But in that verse in Revelation, it also talks about the throne room of God, and it says, that his throne's in the center, and on each side of him was the four living creatures. And then around those four living creatures was the 24 elders. The book of Isaiah says that God's throne sits on the firmament or the circle, whichever translation you're reading, of earth. So you got earth, you got the throne, the four living creatures on each side, and then the 24 elders. And then the book of Matthew, Jesus says, is there not 12 hours in a day? So they established a 12-hour day. So 24 hours in a full cycle. So what Mike was saying is, in his opinion, was, that was showing that all this craziness is going on in Revelation, or it's about to go on. But he's assuring John and the readers, saying, I sit on my throne above earth with the constellations around me and the 24 elders, which is the 24 hours in a day. So basically showing that God is at the center of all time, space, and matter, and in control. I'd never seen it that way or understood it that way. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds it, mate. I love the sound of it.
I agree actually 100% with that. And you stated it actually really well, man. That was great. And what I want to add about that, I actually want to comment quickly on two things. The first one is this wheel within a wheel thing. Obviously, I've seen literally all the episodes of Ancient Aliens. I've been following it since the beginning. And it's the first time I saw that being suggested as a craft. And I said, okay, they actually might have something here. This is like very interesting how they're describing this. And I was thinking about, like when I visualize that, I think about like this central ball bearing that's like really well lubricated, because I know something about machinery and stuff like that too. I try to get a broad perspective on everything. I'm picturing this like central core ball bearing in the center of this thing that's able to move in 360 degrees. And then I'm picturing one of the inner wheel. I'm thinking of a disc-shaped craft, like a saucer, traditional saucer. I'm picturing the inner wheel spinning like clockwise, the outer wheel spinning counterclockwise, and that makes an energy vortex. You can make fusion from that, like huge amounts of energy, especially if you go to the teachings of the Vimanas from India. They say they were mercury powered. Well, if you put mercury in a vortex and you have one, rotation one way, the rotation the other way, you're going to have serious charge. I guarantee that. So these are actually things we can look at in science. So I see that side, but I mean, I agree, man. It was a really good point. And I actually, believe it or not, I have not thought about this angle quite the way that you stated it. I'm very appreciative for that. Is that the wheels within wheels? If, for instance, if you look at the Mayan calendar system, that's exactly what it is. And if you look at your clock, or not your clock, well, it's like an old-fashioned wristwatch. You're going to see the gears within the gears within the gears. Well, the inner gear spins very fast. The outer gears spin less fast. And sometimes you can have them moving one counterclockwise, another one moving clockwise, and it actually is a timekeeper. And that's exactly what the firmament is. It's a timekeeper, and that's called astrology. And that's, of course, what I do.
Wow, mate.
But there's so many like analogies too that people just overlook. It's like a lot of the heavenly host is compared to as stars. For instance, Job 38, verse 7. Job is, all scholars agree it's the oldest book in the Bible. It says, when the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God, there's that phrase again, B'nai Ha Elohim. Every time that's used, it's talking about heavenly beings. All the sons of God shouted for joy at the sight of creation. Let's see, Numbers 24, verse 17 says, a star shall come out of Jacob. They're talking about Jesus.
Right.
One of my I thought was really interesting. I never thought of it this way till I started doing this study. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 4 says, your descendants will be like the stars of heaven. That's the promise that he made to Abraham. I believe here he's talking about quality of the descendants, not the quantity. They will be like the heavenly host. He warned humanity about being deceived by this heavenly host in Deuteronomy. Beware, lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun, moon, and stars, and all the host of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them, things that the Lord your God has commanded you not to do.
Yeah. Do you sorry, look, mate. Well,
I was just going to say quickly, and again, we generally don't know a lot of this information because we're not told about it. But astrology was studied in Judaism for, thousands of years. I mean, even during, forget what period it was, but the Middle Ages. If you had a rabbi, you also had, alongside of that, you had to have a rabbi who was very well versed in astrology. So it's an ancient practice. So this information was well understood at one time. It's just been lost, diluted along the way. That these things go hand in hand.
And have a look at the word tarot backwards, if you guys haven't seen that before.
Torah frontwards.
Well, it's essentially it's Torah.
I'm thinking. Hang on a minute. Don't think brain's gone.
Yeah, it's the word. It's the word Torah. Essentially, it's a slightly different spelling of it, but
or Torah.
Yeah, Torah, sure.
Which would be same representation as a wheel within a wheel too. That goes really deep, especially with all that. Like, I don't know if you guys looked too much into the Gateway Project, but it was a very long, drawn-out study by the CIA where they looked into occultism and hemi-syncing the brain from the left side of the brain and the right so that they were in unison. And in this document, right, they're talking about astral projection and things like that. So again, this is a real CIA document. They made it. I didn't. It shows in that literature that the universe is constructed of a toroid, a one wheel spinning clockwise and one spinning counterclockwise and intersecting in the center. And again, that's the CIA saying it. So it's like,
yeah, great.
It's crazy, mate.
Okay, I want to say this really quick, guys. To go off what you're saying, Lux, is that when I teach cosmology, of course, I teach the cosmic axis, and I'm pulling in from at least probably 6 or 7 different cultures, and I'm saying, look, it's saying the same thing: a flat disc with the spheres above, and you got the dome. And I've done a lot of presentations of that on my channel if people want to check that out. But the thing about it that I want to say right now is that the torus field, the word earth is the same letters as the word heart. We know the heart is at the center. So the earth is a very important place because it's at the center of the torus field of our solar system. And what it does is the energy is produced, I'm assuming, in the core of the earth somehow. Some people say it's a star, actually. There's a star at the center of the earth that's producing this energy. And then what it does is that it loops upward. And when it gets to the top, it actually descends downward. And then when it hits the bottom, it actually comes up the center back to the center, which would be the earth. And that's an actual torus field. And that's actually the model of our solar. What I would say for sure, as far as I'm concerned, the correct model of our solar system is a torus field. And exactly. I have Santos Bonacci to thank for that as well. And by the way, also the human body, same model. It's as above, so below.
And that's exactly what they're talking about in this document too, which would, also explain these giant galactic sort of seasons, right? That we're moving in a giant, like a time wheel, that we go through different phases over and over and over again, not only on Earth with the four seasons, but also on a much larger galactic scale.
Oh my God, man, 100%. And actually, it's just you guys are awesome. This is fantastic. Seriously, it's making my damn week and month. Amazing, guys.
That's what it's all about, mate.
Yeah, this is a real conversation here. And we're actually making progress on things, which is what I'm interested in. But when I teach the cosmic cycles, I teach pretty much exactly like you said, Lux. I start with the day, of course. You got a 24-hour day, and 24 hours has already been mentioned, which is the time of the day essentially, which is half light, half dark. And then the next thing that happens is you've got the month, which is based on the moon cycle, which is mon, month, the same word, which is a 27 to 29 day cycle, which is actually, if you were to make the year based on that, you end up with a 13-month calendar, which is part of where the 13 comes in. At 12, 13, you're looking at, if you go 28 times 13, you come out with, I think, 364, which is, you're right there. So if we were using the moon cycle as the actual moon cycle as the month, we'd be damn close to 365, within like 24 hours, basically. Instead, we use
the Hebrew calendar is based on.
13 is 13, right?
Yeah, the moon cycles until the full moon comes out, the new month doesn't start.
Right. That's correct, man. That's what we need to get back to, that 100%. Okay, so then I just want to say a couple more of how I do the times. And this is the same wheel within a wheel concept. It's the same exact thing we're all talking about. You got the day, then you've got the moon cycles, which make the month. Then, of course, you've got the year. We all know about how that works with the 12 months or 13 months, however you want to do that. And then you've got what's called the great year, which is 25,920 years, which is 2,160 years per age. Those are called the ages, like the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius. And then on top, man, you've got some other stuff put in there. You've got the Mayan long count, which is like 5,000 something years. And that's set at the proper, that actually matches up with what are called the Yuga cycles from ancient India. And the Yuga cycle is, check this out, guys, it's unbelievable mathematics. So the Yuga cycle is 4.32 million years long. And this is the calendar from ancient India.
How long? 4.4.
Yeah, 4.32 million years is one.
Is that it?
Yep. So what I did.
Is that all you possess?
What's that, guys?
I just made a joke. I said, "Is that all you possess?"
Yeah. Okay, so the 4.32 million, if you divide 25,920 into it, guess what you get? You get 166.66666 repeating. So that's, again, it fits in perfectly. And you're seeing the 666 in there. So, like, yes, it's been designed. You know, this is a time clock. It's a master. It's more than, I'm sure it's more than 1,000,000 years. This cycle outside of that, I can't even see. I know there is. And all it is you figure the beginning of the universe, that was the center of the cycle. And the further out you go, then you get longer time periods. And that's what we live in. And that's what astrology is.
Well, you mentioned that on earth as it is in heaven. I thought that was a really good segue. You know, in Numbers chapter 2, when they first come out of Exodus, and they're in the wilderness wandering, you know how God gives them specific directions on where to camp, right?
Mm.
Well, in there, that is astronomical too. And I thought that was pretty mind blowing. But, you know, it's a mirror image of heaven. You know, what they were given these, you know, very specific instructions. But when you go back to, I think it's Genesis 49, you get the blessings of the children of Jacob. You know, and that's the 12 sons or tribes of Israel. You know, if you read the blessings in that chapter, Judah was referred to as a lion. Reuben was referred to as a man with water. Ephraim, that's Joseph, in the Jewish Targums, he was referred to as a bull or an ox. And Dan was associated with a serpent. You know, these are all constellations in the heavens. You know, the lion, Leo, the man with water, Aquarius, bull and ox, Taurus, the serpent, eagle is Scorpio. You know, these are the four cardinal points of the Babylonian zodiac again. So keep those in mind with these instructions that God gives them in Numbers chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, Judah was to the east. Verse 10 says, Reuben was to the south. In verse 18, Ephraim, Joseph, was to the west. And verse 25 says that Dan was to the north. You know, so it was, you know, already it was a giant moving cross on the floor of the desert as they were wandering through, right? And in the center, you had the holiest of holies, and that's where the Levites were, and that's where they would, you know, sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat on the Day of Atonement and say the hidden name of God, which was, you know, Yo Hey Vav Hey, which insignificantly, I'm joking,
Yo,
it
hey,
means
bye.
behold the hand, behold the hand, behold the nail. So,
You guys have seen Trey Smith, right? And I'm sorry to interrupt.
oh, Trey's awesome. Me and him are really good friends.
Oh, man.
Who's that, mate?
Yeah, I've had him on
Oh,
the show, and we talk at least once a week.
man, I'm so happy to hear that. If he wants to join us, I'd love to have that conversation. Tell him about the tell him what happens when you oh my God, man. I literally, like, I'm sorry to be graphic, but I literally almost shit my pants when I saw what he did with that Yahweh symbol. With the Yahweh symbol. If you turn it 90 degrees, tell him what happens if you turn it 90 degrees.
Oh, it's a human. It looks like a human standing.
Except it's like a serpent head. It looks like a reptilian.
Well, it's got that little L shape. Yeah, the resh. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think it's showing you who Yahweh is, in my opinion. I think he's a reptilian. Unbelievable. I could not believe when I saw that. And I could not believe I'd never seen that before. Sorry, man. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, I mean that was just it. I mean, it was, you know, when they give the instructions and laid them out, and where they told each tribe to be, you know, the outside four was those sons in Genesis 49 that was compared to the four animals of the constellations, and that's where they were. They were on the outside, north, south, east, and west, mirroring heaven. So that was pretty,
It's remarkable.
wild.
I will just say one thing, Jennifer. I know I've shown it everybody, but I've just put in the feed, in the chat. I've just put that video of what our brand did, the footage. If you, I don't know if you want to have a quick look at it, and just while we're here together, see what you think of it, or have a look at it again, because it's still. I mean, I've watched it. I've lost count how many times I've watched that video, and it is just, to me, it's beyond fascinating. I have never seen anything like it before, and it just, to me, it just screams out the Ufamu, which is the wheel within a wheel, so to speak, or whatever it is.
Could you send me that one again, General? I can't remember if I seen
Yeah,
it.
I've
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
If it's actually in the screen now. If you go back, you'll see it in like where you can send a message in this chat we're in.
Yeah,
I've
it's
just
the newest
posted it.
chat.
Yeah, I've literally just posted it now, mate. But I can send. Do you want me to send it to your Instagram, or do you want it? Because it's actually in Skype now.
I'll check it out after. That's fine. I'll check it out after. I'm trying to find the thing here.
It's actually on the screen. I can take a
Oh,
minute
wait a
to
minute.
send it, mate. It's not a problem. Have you got it now? It's actually in this chat what we're on now.
Okay, I'll watch it later. I see it, General. Thank you.
You need to watch it now, mate. Now.
It is crazy. That's.
Oh, let me see.
I've seen that a couple times too. That's not the only footage that I've seen that depicts that.
Yeah, it's. I think it is. It's not. Doesn't look like a blueprint of UFO. In a way, it's just so unusual. But
Yeah, a lot of these images that people have spotted, I would say over the last decade at least, since people have smartphones, a lot of them repeat. You know what I'm saying? It seems like there's a certain class or a different grade of different whatever they might be. It's just interesting that they repeat themselves, because it's like there'll be a video from Chile and it'll have the exact same thing as a video from California, but then it's like categorized into different, I don't know what you would want to call it.
Yeah, Chile.
I get what you mean. Yeah, it's like
What's that, General?
He just went into slow-mo.
That was weird, man.
it's like you said, it's completely different. It's so unusual, and it's 100% legit. Well, you see some of them on YouTube, and they just look very, very suspicious. Well, there's nothing suspicious about it. I think it's proof. There are other things. I just wish I'd see something myself. Actually see something. Walking down the street and something looking up and there's that. It would just be mesmerizing.
I'll give you my sightings, General. You can have all mine. I don't really want them anymore. I've seen so many, man.
Yes. Do you have a lot of interactions, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, during the day, during the night, Canada, United States, all over the place. And I've had weird. Well, we did a show on it too, but I've had weird biological side effects at times. The pain in the ear, stuff like that, some pressure in the head. So they're using some kind of technology. I know they're up there. Sometimes I can't see them because they're cloaked somehow, maybe a cloud or whatever, or even the color of the sky. But no, they're in. Again, I'm a sober person when I'm out on the road, and I'm just saying what I see. So I encourage people to listen and hear people out when they're telling you about the UFO stories. And if you find them credible, and from my perspective, this is coming from a scientist. This is not coming from. I'm not some kind of new age, fad guy, or it's like a hobbyist. No, it's like I'm telling you what I saw. Okay, and I also do biology and science and astrology and all this stuff. So it's out there, and I think sometimes I did a show the other day, and I was talking about how I think sometimes they have to recognize you, they have to know your energy signature for you to see them, and which might mean that you've been possibly previously abducted, or you have a genetic lineage with the specific species that's up in the sky. And some people tell me about, oh yeah, I saw this really creepy looking ET or humanoid or hybrid or whatever, and I see them, or they told me where they saw them, and I go to that place and I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything weird. I don't see anything, and a lot of that I think has to do with our individual perception.
Yeah. I think like we you say, Dave, where maybe they're looking at some sort of like possibly like you tagged, whereas you've previously got been abducted or had an interaction, so they know. And if they're using some sort of cloaking technology, for example, a cloud, which, you know, that's fucking perfect disguise, isn't it? A cloud, really.
Oh yeah, except for the fact that I mean, I have a story about that too. That excuse me, when I was in Alaska, I've been all 50 states. You know, I spent a lot of time in Alaska doing work in the tourism industry for about 3 or 4 years, probably about 4 years. And there's a fair amount of lenticular clouds up there, which are those typical saucer-shaped clouds. And so I'm standing outside like a very remote area where I was lodging at the time when I was working. And I see this cloud kind of move over the mountaintop. It was in conjunction with the mountain. And I'm looking up at it and I'm like, why do I feel weird about this? I'm just like standing there. I'm like, what is going on? I'm feeling something like, some kind of a psychic connection with this thing. And that doesn't normally happen. Yeah, it doesn't normally happen. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about all the scientists who said, oh, it's just a cloud formation. And then I'm thinking about, check this out. This is interesting. So Alaska, you go from Alaska all the way down the West Coast and follow it all the way down. Of course, you end up in Chile. And I mean, all through there, you've got the old Incan civilizations in Peru and all of this stuff. And there's so much talk of craft. And I mean, you see I think his name's Pahuti. I hope I got that correct. I don't do a huge amount with Central America. I do. Yeah, I think that's his name. He was a king. He's like a Mayan king or an Incan king.
Right,
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have seen this. It's on a sarcophagus. There's a carving of him in a spacecraft. He's riding the spacecraft. I saw that. Oh my God.
Seriously?
And you see like the discharge of the flames coming out the bottom, and he's got his hand
binocular on one eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got you guys know, he got a binocular, his hands are on controls, his feet are on pedals. I mean, come on. You know, we all knew about this stuff. But it's just the modern society, like we've lied to each other for so long that we just we think it's all fallacy. But what I was saying is that the whole West Coast, all the way from Alaska down to Chile, like the tip of, say, like Tierra del Fuego, is rife with UFO activity. I mean, think about California and the Nimitz and all this stuff with the Tic Tac. You've got a whole West Coast and even all the West, huge amounts of UFO activity.
Is that where there's a certain, like a line? Does it go down that side?
Well, I think, yeah, it's for me, it's not like a direct longitudinal line because it curves in, you know, it crosses different time zones and stuff. But I'll tell you one thing that's similar is that it's by and large it's a very dry area. If you go down to it's desert essentially. And I was telling my friend I'm actually in the Pacific Northwest right now, and I was telling my friend I'm like, I watched it rain here, and I'm walking outside while it's raining, and then after it rains, I go outside, and I'm like, it feels strangely dry out in the air, even though it's like rain for 6 hours. And I was asking my friend, I'm like, what is going on with that, man? And I'm thinking, and I'm like, you know what I think it is? I think the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, and even up through Alaska, like coastal Alaska, I think it wants to be a desert. And if it didn't have the influence from the Pacific Ocean, it would definitely be a desert. Because the air is like desert air, man. It's weird. It doesn't hold the moisture. Like I'm from Connecticut. You know, Connecticut, when it rains, it's like soup for hours after it rains. Oh man, it's thick. The air is very thick with moisture.
That's weird, isn't it?
Oh, it's not like that up here. Yeah, so it's like this dry thing going on, this kind of desert biome going on. And I think a lot of the extraterrestrials part of it is they can see so far when you don't have a bunch of tree cover. So like you got the Nazca Lines and the Atacama Giant down there in South America, and you think that, okay, well, if I'm up in the air even a few thousand feet, I'm going to be able to see the ground really well. And so I can see where I want to go and land and stuff like that. You get to the east, man, it's all heavily vegetated.
Yeah. very bizarre, isn't it, Dave, mate? Very bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Justin, mate.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, before we go, I have to admit, I saved my best one for last. And you had mentioned it earlier, Dave, about the star of the Bethlehem, the birth of Christ. And I want to point your listeners to some really good reading material if they'd like to look further into this, because this is not, my ideas. I've read up on these things. But Mike Heiser's Reversing Hermon, he speaks on it. But there's another book that he referenced that he had first read called The Star That Astonished the World by Ernest Martin, and also Witness of the Stars by E.W. Bullinger. But I talked earlier about Daniel being one of the chiefs of the Magi while they were in Babylon, how they studied the stars and things like that. And these Magi are the ones that show up to give the three gifts that you hear about in the Bible. Well, I believe that Revelation 12 is actually about the birth of Jesus, and it's all astronomical signs. And just for those not familiar with it, I was just going to read that real quick. It says, "And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and crying out in birth pangs, and the agony of giving birth. And another sign in heaven appeared. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its head 7 diadems. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. The dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up to God and to his throne." John was called up to heaven. And back in time, he sees the event of the birth of Jesus from heaven. The verse clearly says that he saw these signs in heaven. This was astronomical. He saw this sign in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. This is the constellation Virgo. So these wise men saw Virgo, with the sun placed inside the constellation. The sun would have to be located between 150 to 170 degrees along the ecliptic. This clothing of the sun in Virgo occurs for a 20-day period each year. This 20-degree spread could indicate the general time when Jesus was born. But the moon, also under her feet, this really narrows that window. Well, the next thing that they looked for was the crown of 12 stars on her head. This is the constellation Leo.
The crown of 12 stars, did you say then, Justin, mate?
Yes, sir. It says a crown of 12 stars on her head. So this is the constellation Leo. So it has exactly 12 stars in it. It is also known for royalty. The king of the jungle. Christ was the lion from the tribe of Judah. So the next thing it says, the next sign they had to look for was a great red dragon standing before her, waiting to devour the child. This is the constellation Hydra. The color red locates it. Yeah. And the color red locates it in the southern sky. Where it says it sweeps away 1/3 of the stars, points to a location near his tail that is generally lacking in stars. Right above Hydra is the constellation Corax, the Raven, and Crater, which have 7 and 10 stars. Corax with 7, the number of the heads, flies close to Virgo, just beneath it. Since people have been mapping the stars since the dawn of time, we know the heavenly bodies run the same course night after night, year after year, like a perfect clock, like we talked about earlier. With our modern computers and software, we can rewind the hands of that clock and pinpoint dates astronomically. All these events happen at the same time, and it gives us a very narrow window. But like I said earlier, the moon, also being under her feet, really narrows that small window down. It's roughly about a 9-minute window to astronomically pinpoint the birth of Christ. When we load all this information into astrological software, we come up with a date. That date's September the 11th, 3 BC.
Brilliant,
September
man.
11th.
Brilliant, Justin. That's
That
excellent.
is.
And what's really crazy is like when the angel of the Lord comes to Mary to announce that she's pregnant, when you use that timeline and go back, that puts the angel of the Lord announcing her pregnancy during Hanukkah. You know, Christ was known as, you know, he was the light. So how fitting that, you know, the light of the world was announced during the festival of lights.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant, man. And of course, and for people who, oh, sorry, General. Good.
No, wait, go for it, please. Go for it.
I'll just say really quickly, and for people who are not familiar with astrology, well, first of all, I've been smiling from ear to ear the whole time Justin's been explaining this because it's so perfect. And that's how the zodiac is set up, is that you got, first of all, September 11th is Virgo, and it's actually damn close to the center of Virgo. Virgo is the Virgin, so it's Virgin Mary, you know. And I agree, Jesus is often described as the Lion or Lion of Judah, you know, tribe of Judah, all this stuff. Well, that's exactly to the north of, well, I'll say the north, depending on the alignments. But in the zodiac, it's just to the, it's just above Virgo. Leo's a sign that's just above Virgo. And I mean, totally, like when the sun is in front of the sign and the moon's in front of the sign, that's your sun sign, your moon sign. That is unbelievable, Justin. I know about the constellation description with the 12 stars and stuff. I haven't heard it explained that far before, and it's absolutely, I'm 100% on board with that. And it's sound astrologically. And the other thing that it is, it's a roadmap of the human body again, because everything is always also anatomical. So when you're talking about the 12 stars on the head, you're talking about the 12 cranial nerves of the brain. And those 12 cranial nerves directly interface with the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and it gives you your mental states, you know, which is called your birth chart. It's all there. It's all there.
Birth chart, yeah.
Well, I think about what Jesus says too, right? When asked, you know, once you're gone, what's to follow, right? I mean, Jesus is also called the fisher of men, Pisces, right? And what would be the following new age? Well, it'd be the age of Aquarius.
Yeah, and the guy so pouring out knowledge.
Right. So when Jesus is asked, you know, what's to happen when you're gone, he says, go to town, find the man who's pouring out water from the basin. It's clearly describing the age of Pisces moving to the age of Aquarius. And of course, like you said, the Leo the Lion, him being the Lion of Judah, could be describing those transitions between all three ages.
Totally correct.
That's what he said. He'd be with him to the end of the age.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was going to say, you know, like the birth of Jesus stroke Christ is, well, led to believe the 25th of December, when it's not. Could you confirm, is what you just said, Justin, does that confirm that he was actually born, was it September?
Yeah, September the 11th. See, I think that's why the whole catastrophe in America happened on September the 11th, because in my opinion, it's Satan trying to tarnish a beautiful day.
So, with that being said, 25th of December, that's linked or connected in some way to Uncle Nimrod. Is that?
So I was about to say it's the Antichrist. It's the inversion of the truth. You know, it's the winter solstice and you know, the worship of the sun god.
So it's misconception.
Oh yeah, it's a big lie.
You know,
let me play the devil's advocate
before.
Let me play the other side too. I totally see what you guys are saying, but let me just explain where that comes from as well. Okay, is that you've got the winter solstice, which is generally thought of to be it's usually the 21st of December, right in there.
Yeah.
But what happens is, and this is how it works, is that when the sun hits that spot, it's at the lowest point of the sky. You know, it's at the bottom of the zodiac, and that's called the death. That's the death cycle when you're beneath the horizon.
Death cycle.
Okay. All the 6 months beneath the horizon, that's the death cycle. Or the 6 signs rather. So what ends up happening is it's between 3 and 3.5. I mean, I think it's actually 3.33, which is, we all know, 33. That's one of the meanings. That's the sun does not move for 3.33 days after the winter solstice. When I say move,
you could not make that up.
No, you can't make this.
You couldn't make
up.
that up, could you, Dave?
Hold on. So check this out. So the 25th of December is the first day that you start to gain more light in the year. So if for 3.33 days you're not moving, you're not gaining light. You're just staying same sunset every night, right? And then the 25th, the sun starts increasing in power, and this is called the birth of the sun in the sky.
Wow.
Sun in the sky. And you're starting the other cycle of the year now. You're starting to gain power. So it's all of these things are correct. It depends on how you cut it. But the most important part of all for me is the moral aspect. Is that
it also stops in the crux, right? It goes to the cross. The sun goes down to the cross for 3 days, and then rises. So I mean that. Even it talks about, the heavens declare the glory of God. It tells the story of Christ. Even the heavens do.
Oh, absolutely, Justin. And even more for me is actually the spring equinox, which is the true resurrection of the sun, because then now it's coming above the horizon. You got more light than darkness. And that's why we have Easter around that time. And that's also associated with the moon as well, how that's calculated. So, you know what, people in the Vatican, guys, you got to stop lying. We know that you've got astrologers on your team. You never talk about it. The billionaires, they've all got the astrologers. It's all in the stars. All of it.
Amen.
Remarkable.
I want to, can I say one more thing, guys? I know we're coming to the end, I think, right, General?
Yeah, Dave, you go for it, mate.
All right.
Go ask, mate.
Okay, it's the last thing I want to say. It was from a point from earlier that it's a really kind of an exciting idea to think about. A lot of people think the fallen angels were kind of the bad guys. And I mean, believe me, I spent plenty of time with that topic. However, I always take both sides, because when I'm trying to understand something, and then after I've seen everything, then I form my opinion. And sometimes I hold contradictory opinions, because it's possible for two things to be true at the same time that are contradictory, especially in quantum physics and when you get dimensions and stuff like this. So what I wanted to say is that I said, all right, well, some people, I've read a couple accounts that people said that the fallen angels or the watchers were actually the good guys. And I've also heard some accounts that the serpent was a good guy. Primarily, I've heard sometimes people say it was Enki. Enki was the serpent from the great serpent line of Mesopotamia. And he helped humankind, when his brother wanted to destroy the planet with the flood and all this stuff. So in terms of the fallen angel topic, what I want to say is that let's just say that whoever I'm just going to use Yahweh as the example, because that's probably the best example. Let's say Yahweh, the lizard man, the hybrid lizard man, and I believe he has benevolent and maleficent forms, both in different timelines. It's when it gets really weird. You don't want to generally think about one timeline. You got to think about the whole array. Let's say that he created the solar system and he created the Earth. Well, let's say there's some really benevolent angels out there, and they saw what was going on here, and they said, no, you're not going to do that to humans. You're not going to make animals suffer and, have forest fires and destroy the whole biome and stuff like this. So they said, okay, we're going to intervene, and we know that we might be destroyed, but we don't care because we value humans that much. So then they came down, the fallen angels came down, and they said, we're going to teach you guys the stuff that they're withholding from you. So let's say it's either the reptilians or I think about the Greys a lot too, that they said, oh, you don't need to have that knowledge. Because why? Oh, it's because you're trying to control us. That's why you don't want us to know what you did and how you set up the system. So then these benevolent fallen angels come down. They're like, we'll help you guys. It's going to destroy us, but we're here for you to teach.
I love the sound of this, Dave. I really do. I love it.
Yeah.
Please continue, please.
Well, that's what the mystery schools believe, and that's what the Masonic, secret societies and stuff believe and teach also.
Oh, they say that.
Yeah, but you got to get real deep into Masonry for them to reveal those secrets.
Oh yeah.
So that you do.
I mean, It's like I told the story before. Like when I was in the Golden Dawn, we would go into Masonic lodges and do rituals, initiations, things like that. And I had a lot of conversations with Masons, and just they're totally at lower levels that they just don't get
Ignorant.
told the truth. Yeah.
Dave, that is an absolutely fascinating perspective, mate. I love how we've sort of come to a close with that. Brilliant, mate. And I totally see you, totally understand and see your perspective from it. It's like the opposite.
Gentlemen, we mush your
It's like-
mind again.
It's fascinating, mate. Yes.
Success.
Brilliant, that, mate. Brilliant.
Great
Yeah,
conversation, guys.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
made my month, honest to God.
That's good, that, mate. I knew it would. I knew that we would have, even though I've not done a show with Justin before, just by he came highly recommended from Vicky Joy Anderson, and she's another phenomenal.
Vicky's
We're
awesome.
very lucky to have Vicky in this community, but I just knew that we've all got different perspectives. I just knew it would be a fascinating conversation, and it really was. I loved every second of tonight. Thank you very much, everybody. I really
This
mean
was
it.
great, guys. Thank you.
No problem.
Top.
I feel like we
man,
just
so-
barely scratched the surface too. It's
Oh
nuts.
yes.
I got about
Yes.
12 more
Yeah.
pages for next time.
Right.
Oh, hey, if we could do a part 2, it would be unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you guys let me know too. I'm happy to come on your shows as well. So just let me know when. Try to find a time.
Oh,
Lux, Dave, it's nice to meet you guys. It was a good time hanging
Here we
out.
go.
yes. Thank you, everybody. Right, before we all go, would you all like to let everybody know where they could get hold of you? Like, plug your show, please. Right. So if you've got any questions, they can hit you up straight away. Then can't they? I will add everything to the show notes and that. But Justin, do you want to go first, mate?
Yeah, the podcast I got is called the Dig Bible Podcast. We say it's a podcast for the curious Christian. You know, we're not afraid to ask the hard questions and dive into the weird stuff. We talk giants, we talk fallen angels, Book of Enoch. Many great guests. We've had Trey Smith, Judd Burton, Dr. Aaron Judkins, Timothy Alberino, and we actually talked to Gary. We got him coming in a few months. It's just good questions and stimulating conversation. But you can find us anywhere podcasts can be found. We just launched a YouTube channel. I just started making videos and stuff. And our website is thedigbiblepodcast.com.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. Dave?
Yeah, then just thanks again, guys. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Facebook's probably the best. It's Dave Petrella under Facebook, Petrella. I'm on Instagram, Dave Petrella 12. Of course, my YouTube channel, it's under Dave Petrella. I try to keep things all consistent, so it's easy for people to find. I've got some links, I've got a PayPal link down there. I think General's going to put that up. If you guys can support me, I really appreciate it. And in fact, I really need it to continue, doing shows. I really need the financial support, so I appreciate that. I've got the Patreon link down there as well, which I just started yesterday, actually. So if you're interested in supporting me there, I'm very thankful. And, check out, I've got a full array of huge numbers of videos on my YouTube channel, all different. I'm not scared of any topic at all. Some people who know my work, and so feel free to spend some time checking that out. I have a full list of services. You can see it on the About section on my YouTube channel. Of course, full astrology services. There's a list of all the things I do, spiritual guidance, and also health tips and principles of Eastern medicine. So let me know, guys. I'm always happy to get back to you. Happy to help you.
Nice one, mate. Nice one. Lux.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the conversation was awesome. Again, this is the type of stuff that really gets the wheels turning and helps us to answer the questions that we're all searching for, so.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
But you can find me, best place is on Twitter at Lux8th, AETH. Going to be re-uploading a lot of the old content, to Spreaker soon, so go over there and check it out. You can also find me on OnlyFans at the Naked Magician.
No, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding about that one, but
That's funny as hell.
You just got some people excited for nothing.
the old bait
You
and switch.
tease.
But
Fucking hell, man.
we got some exciting new content that's going to be coming out with General Lee and I, so stay tuned and can't wait for you guys to see what we're going to be putting out.
Yes. Looks, you know, everything happens for a reason, mate, and this project, what we are beginning, it's going to be something else for sure.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's going to be incredible, mate. I can't wait. I can't wait for it, mate.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just give you a little bit of, I call it a little tickle, bit of a tease. Think of what we did with the occult symbolism in NRO Part 1. Think of that, but tenfold. And not just one episode. A lot more. And it is for me to have the opportunity. It is it means the world to me. It means the world to me. Just like you do, mate.
Yes, sir.
You know, you've always had my back, especially with you know, how things are for me at the minute. It makes a difference when you've got friends who are there, they've got your back. Like everybody on this call has been with me. I can't thank you enough. It means a lot to me.
Yeah,
You're doing what you're doing, man.
No.
Thank you. But yeah, it's like speaking with people like yourselves. It helps. It helps a lot. And like tonight, I've loved every minute of it. I think it's been extraordinary.
Yeah, you guys are all great. And if I don't get out, what I think either, you know, it's not good for me either. I need to talk about this stuff. You know, it's like you guys too, I'm sure. If I don't, it's just like a waste away, man. You know, no one cares, wants to talk about it. Okay, it's the only thing I want to talk about.
Yeah,
we're always here anyway, mate.
Something I just wanted to point out I found really fascinating about just talking, like this conversation in particular, is that a lot of times in the community that we're in, right, talking about everything from UFOs to conspiracy, a lot of times there seems to be like content creators that have a hard line, as in everything that they're saying is absolutely the truth. I really loved just hearing from everybody, keeping an open mind and entertaining the thought that two things can be true at once. And I think it's a good way to approach these subjects for sure.
A pancake has always got two sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Southern man. We like pancakes.
Yeah, Justin, what state are you in, if you don't mind telling me?
Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great state.
Yeah, I'm an Appalachia boy.
Very nice. Yep. Very nice.
Right, gentlemen. Once again, thank you very much. Fascinating episode. Part 1. Oh, we're going to have to do a part 2, definitely. Definitely. Because, like you said, looks barely scratched the surface. I think it has just been so deep. Some of the areas, and that's what the listeners need. It's at the end of the day, we're here for truth. We've not got alternative agendas. Our agenda is truth.
That's right.
That's what it's all about.
And when that's your agenda, everyone wins as well, you know, and everyone profits, and we have prosperity.
Spot on.
People kind to each other, you know.
Yeah, spot on that, mate. Spot on. Gentlemen, it has been a true honour speaking with everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I will stop recording now. And thanks again. I've got a daft smirk and loved it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Warren.